Behavior theory. It is one of the earliest scientific explanations provided by one of the pioneers of behaviorism. It is a psychological behaviorism based quality of the language the child hears, as well as the consistency of the reinforcement that has an effect on the child's success in language learning. Next, please. Foreign language behavior learner is the organism whose behavior is being conditioned, which is the verbal behavior. The stimulus is what is presented and taught of the foreign language. Therefore, we continue with the research, which is the learner's reaction to the stimulus, and lastly is the approval of the called reinforcement. Next. The learning process is for the most part a behavioristic process. In the language teaching area, behaviorism is a background of exercises, either oral or written, that view language as stimulus and response.
In the 1950s, Noam Chomsky argued that children are biologically programmed for language. Language develops in the child just the same way that other biological functions develop. Next, please. He believed that children's minds are not blank. They are born with an innate ability to discover for themselves the underlying rules of a language system by just being exposed to language. For example, the critical period hypothesis suggests children who are not given access to language in infancy and early childhood because of extreme deafness or isolation will never acquire language if these deprivations go on for too long. Next, please. The main criticism of innatism is a lack of scientific evidence. It's not practical in a learning situation. What if a child is exposed to the ground language structure or emphasizes adult linguistic competence and not language acquisition? Or what if they don't take the social environment into account? The impact on L2 learning is that any teaching method that involves engaging the learning in natural communication and authentic input, such as some story or activity-based programs, reflects the innatism theory. However, the theory is not practical in the actual teaching learning situation. The child can learn the correct language even if he or she is exposed to the ground language structure. But in reality, research proves that children learn a language similar to the one they are exposed to.
Piaget's theory. Piaget's theory of cognitive development is a theory about the nature and development of human intelligence. It was originated by the psychologist Jean Piaget in 1920. Cognitive development refers to the change in children's patterns of thinking as they grow older. Piaget believed that children's cognitive skills unfold naturally as they mature and explore their environment. He argues that children are not like little adults who may know less. Children just think and speak differently. Next, please. Piaget argues that children's thinking goes through a series of 4 major stages, and they are only capable of advancing cognitively if they have mastered the previous stage. For instance, in the formal operational stage, age 12 up, where child has mastered abstract thinking, learners are active participants in the learning process. Learners use the environment and social interaction to advance learning. Criticisms. There are some aspects of language learning that are separated from cognitive development. So the theory falls short of completely answering the question how L2 is acquired. Moreover, doesn't consider cultural differences, and some learning tasks require assistance to be successfully learned. Now, the impact on L2 learning. Children construct knowledge, they identify relationships, and make sense of physical and abstract information. They will benefit academically because they have concrete sensory data and literal interpretations. And they are able to think abstractly, problem solving, and discerning relevant information.
The sociocultural theory of Vygotsky. This theory was shown by the Russian psychologist Lev Vygotsky, and his work originated in the 1920s and 1930s, but it wasn't translated until the 1950s. Vygotsky thought that community and language played a huge role in learning, and so in this theory he expresses the fundamental role of social interaction in the development of cognition, because he thought that cognitive development was not something that happened in specific stages, and was instead the result of social interaction. It's very important to know what children can learn on their own and what they can learn with the help of others. And this development, according to Vygotsky, happened ideally in the zone of proximal development, that represents what children can learn with the help of the more knowledgeable other. When we hear this, we think that it has to represent a teacher or another person, but actually that's not the case. The more knowledgeable other only has to have a higher level of ability or knowledge than the learner. So it can be a parent, yes, but it could also be a sibling, a friend, a classmate, or technology that is programmed with more knowledge in the topic. This is why Vygotsky thought that cognitive development was not something that happened in stages, because a child that receives help and guidance to learn an ability will learn faster and have a higher level of skill than a child that doesn't receive the same help. Some criticism that this theory received was that Vygotsky assumed that this theory could be applied to all cultures, and this is not the case, because scaffolding might not be as helpful in other cultures.